Neighbors in a quiet Port Charlotte community are in shock tonight.
You're living here and you think you're safe, but you're not safe anywhere. Nowhere.
A violent scene erupted on their street overnight. A gunman ambushes and kills a 21-year veteran of the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office.
It was the most difficult thing I've ever had to do in my career, and I don't wish it upon anybody.
Tonight, the family of Sergeant Mike Wilson is facing the harsh reality. The husband and father of 3 won't be coming home.
I'm glad he was here to protect us, but I'm sad that he had to lose his life.
NBC2 uncovering new details about the shooting of that Charlotte County Sheriff's deputy. Sergeant Wilson died overnight responding to a call. Good evening, I'm Kelly Burns.
And I'm Peter Bush, live tonight outside the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, where the flag is flying at half staff and deputies are working with heavy hearts tonight. And we are learning so much more about this story that was breaking as we came on the air last night at 11 o'clock. Sergeant Mike Wilson, a 21-year veteran, was the first to respond to a domestic violence call at an apartment complex in Port Charlotte about 8 o'clock last night. Just 3 minutes after he arrived, he was walking up the stairs to the apartment by himself when one gunshot hit him, taking his life. The scene, best described as chaotic. We've had several witnesses tell us they were scared for their lives, hoping bullets didn't come through their homes or windows. Well, we've learned a lot since going on the air in the past couple of hours. Funeral arrangements have been made for Sergeant Wilson, and a fund has been set up to help his family. You can find that information at NBC-2.com. And within the past 15 minutes, NBC2 has confirmed Charlotte County has requested an emergency trace of the guns owned by the shooter, Jay Vanko, by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. We have in-depth team coverage tonight. Let's begin with NBC2's Steve Campion.
Horrified. It doesn't seem real.
Tragedy at the lakes of Tuscana luxury apartments.
It's awful. It's sad.
Gunfire ends with a deputy down.
There's 2 SWAT guys. They're like, yeah, you guys need to get back, get back.
Those who call the complex home describe last night's chaos and confusion.
Nothing like this. I mean, I just moved from Fort Myers, where you see people getting shot all the time, but I didn't expect it, here in Port Charlotte.
8:13 p.m., Charlotte County Sergeant Michael Wilson radios he's been shot, dispatched on a domestic disturbance call.
He was at the bottom of the staircase.
Sheriff Bill Permel says this staircase served as a fatal funnel. Shooter, 49-year-old Jay Vanko, takes aim from the top and with a single shot ends the veteran deputy's life.
So he was firing downwards, and it got just above where the vest was.
Detectives found Vanko dead inside around midnight. They suspect suicide.
In those apartments, you don't hear anything.
As investigators sifted through Vanko's apartment today, those watching offered up thanks to Wilson.
I'm glad he was here to protect us, but I'm sad that he had to lose his life.
Even as fear gripped others tightly.
Very emotional. Very emotional.
And why is that?
Because of what just happened. Because of the family. Because you're living here and you think you're safe, but you're not safe anywhere. Nowhere.
That was Steve Campion reporting. Now, investigators say this all started with a domestic violence call saying that Vanko had turned violent on his wife and his teenage son. The caller, and we don't know who that is, but it sounds like it was someone who knew a lot about what was going on inside the house. It may have been Vanko's son, who the sheriff said was outside at the time. There were weapons, the caller said, inside the apartment, but they believed to be locked in a safe. So detectives suspected within the minutes that they got the 911 call and when Sergeant Wilson arrived that Vanko pulled out one of those guns and was standing at the top of that staircase waiting for an officer to arrive. Tonight we also have reporters learning more about everyone who was involved in this. Right now let's go to NBC2's Charlie Keegan.
The smile on Mike Wilson's face was contagious.
Whenever he passed by in his squad car, in his uniform, he always stopped by and, say, hi, how you doing? Everything is all right.
George Harris lives just down the block from Wilson. He says Wilson was always busy and always trying to help out.
He says, hey, don't strain yourself. If you need a trailer, just stop by and pick up the trailer and drop it back later. Oh, wow. That's the kind of man that he is.
Yeah. Their kids rode the bus to school together. Wilson leaves behind 3 teenage children and a wife.
I've known Mike for a very long time. He was a good officer. He's going to be missed.
The sheriff and former co-workers like Mark Bala can't believe this dedicated husband and father is gone.
He was motivated. He was dedicated to performing a great job for the community in which he lived in.
Wilson graduated from Port Charlotte High School in 1990 and later worked there as a school resource officer, pictured here on the right at prom in 2002.
The role is to build relationships with the students, and clearly if they want to get their picture taken with the resource officer, he did that, and it really speaks to his ability to bond with this population.
Friends are remembering a life cut too short with bands on their badges and a ribbon on the county's memorial to fallen law enforcement officers. In Charlotte County, Charlie Keegan, NBC2.
Now to the people who were inside that apartment. Jay Venko, found dead inside, as we've previously mentioned, was accused of beating his wife and his teenage son before murdering Sergeant Wilson. NBC2's investigator Dave Elias picks up our story.
Very little is known about 49-year-old Jay Venko. He's not on social media. He has no criminal record. His neighbors barely know him.
They always seemed like a really nice couple and didn't see any violent tendencies or anything to give us this indication.
But neighbor Joe DiGiovanni lives below the family and saw police visiting Venko's home last week for a reported domestic disturbance.
We didn't hear anything, or no screaming, no yelling.
Never even hearing the fatal shot that killed Deputy Michael Wilson.
They were all pointing their guns up to the second floor around the other side.
That's because deputies knew Venko was a skilled marksman with an arsenal of weapons.
When I heard, I was shocked.
Perhaps equally as shocking, no record of the guns exist. That's because the state of Florida doesn't require it. The Department of Agriculture telling me that since 2006, the names of individual concealed weapon license holders are exempt from the public.
What bothers me is, what have they done to check that person out to have the guns?
And we are learning exclusively tonight from the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms spokesman, Kevin Richardson, that his agency has been requested to do an emergency trace of those guns. In Charlotte County, Dave Elias, NBC2.
Tonight we have learned that the viewing for Sergeant Wilson will happen Friday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Charlotte Harbor Event Center. His funeral will be held Saturday at 10 a.m. also at the Event Center. This is the first time in more than 5 years that a law enforcement officer in Southwest Florida has been killed in the line of duty. And from everything we have heard about Sergeant Mike Wilson, he was a great guy and he will be dearly missed. Kelly?
All right, Peter, thanks for your coverage out there. And the last officer was Andrew Widman, who was shot in Fort Myers.